But did I just go out and buy that book? No, I didn't. What I actually did, funnily enough, the first place I went to was Amazon. And I didn't just go on to say, oh, I'll go and buy that book. I searched for Zagreb. I like reading literature, history, and several books came up. And I saw them ranked, and I read the comments. I read the star reviews. I followed some of the links to other people. I saw what social bookmarks had been used, and one book emerged. And I bought it because it had been recommended to me effectively by about 30 or 40 friends. Let's call them friends. People who had similar interests. They wanted to come to Zagreb and they read books. So I made a good purchase, and I was reasonably confident I was going to do that. Of course, I Googled Zagreb. I looked at what was around me, and I saw all the many thousands of, I didn't read 1,000 articles, but I had an opportunity to read thousands of articles. I looked on Wikipedia, this great collective, collaborative experiment that tells us so much about the world. If you're doing any form of communications, you have to think and wonder about Wikipedia. The thing about Wikipedia that's most fantastic, I think, is that who gets the money from it? Nobody. That people invest huge amounts of time and effort for no tangible reward except some slight personal satisfaction to create this incredible resource. It's what Clay Shirky calls cognitive surplus. We've suddenly got time to do things that we never had before. We've stopped working all day long and all through the night, except of course you who work in public relations and work incredibly hard. We have some spare time, and we've stopped doing dull things like watching television. We've started doing things that we can actually interact with. We don't like sitting and watching anymore. We are an immersive culture who want to do things. Wikipedia taps into that in an extraordinary way. I also looked on YouTube. I saw bits of film about Zagreb, about Croatia, and they're a fairly, you try it, it's a fairly mixed bunch. You don't have the most straightforward history. Not every picture taken in former Yugoslavia over the last 20 years is going to go on the front page of a guidebook. We have reputational issues that have to be addressed. But I used those tools. So even when I'm going to an old media thing, I have picked up on a huge amount of information that has been created by people, and a large part that none of you, whatever job you do, have had very much to do with. The reputation that I gained, the ideas I gained at Zagreb were outside in the hands of any of you here in this room. So I'm arguing that PR is about relationship management, the interaction between the organisation, stakeholders, and audiences. And I'm saying that increasingly that relationship is shaped in an environment where relationships with the stakeholders have become heightened. They've become heightened to an unprecedented degree. It's happening at a micro level when we're just talking to individuals online or offline. And it's happening at a macro level. And the macro level are key things that almost ground us in the world. Where are you? When will you be there? Time and geography have disappeared. Time and geography don't matter in our internet world, because I'm sitting here, I'm talking about it, some people are using maybe Twitter or other social networks, and they can read what you think about me in real time across the world. They don't have to be in the same room, they don't have to be in the same consequence. The complexity of our relationship then has multiplied in a way that we can hardly understand, because we have so many levels of friends and contacts. We don't just have the people that we know, the people that we work with, the people who may read our outputs. We have a hugely complicated mass of relationships based on these exciting words like Facebook friends and Twitter followers. We've got friends everywhere, and as we know, friends are complicated. That sounds like, maybe I can make a television series which I'll set in New York in a coffee bar or something, and have Jennifer Aniston, and I'll say friends are complicated. Okay, where I meet people formally and I shake hands with them. If I'm lucky, I get to kiss them. if I'm really, really lucky, I get to choose which ones I shake hands with and which ones I kiss. But friends are unpredictable. And then I've got this other level of friends, my Facebook friends, my Twitter friends, this huge network that I'm sort of part of being. So people have always enjoyed spending more time talking to their friends and colleagues than they have engaging in dialogue with brands or ideologies and organization. The shift, as I say, has been in the visibility, the connectivity of those relationships. One of the interesting things is that now we can see the connections. We can aggregate them into what we call reputation by using our range of social media tools, all the little bits of opinion that we have. If I have a view on something, it's an opinion. If somebody else has a view on something, it's an opinion. If I look at an aggregation of opinions, it becomes a reputation. And that's what Google does. It pulls together, or other social networking tools, they pull together tiny bits of opinion and they create what we're going to call a reputation. And if we do that on just, I say, a Google search of for Zagreb, we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different sorts of comments. And a large number of them are nothing whatsoever to do, that have no real official status. They may be positive, they may be negative. Many of the results say lead to content not created by the organizations we were searching for. I was very surprised last week to read a comment from Wendy Clark, who was a Senior Vice President of Integrated Marketing Communications and Capabilities for Coca-Cola. They did an investigation to see what was there about them on YouTube. And they saw that of the 150 million views that the brand had amassed on YouTube, I don't know how many bits of video that is and how many times they were seen, but they added them all together and it came to 150 million. And then he worked out that of that 150 million, less than 30 million, less than 1 in 5 things, could be attributed to the content that Coca-Cola had put into the marketplace. I have to say, my feeling is that I was very surprised that they were surprised. It's one of the things that's so important, the things that's really challenged public relations, and also given public relations a huge opportunity, is the idea that we may have once upon a time had the idea as communicators that we can control messages and we can control content. That was never really the case, but now it's absolutely not the case. We cannot control what is out there, and it's about time we stop trying. We just realize that we do something, people respond to what we do, and if we do good things, hopefully it will influence us in a positive way. If we do bad things, hopefully we get our just desserts. So we can't do this controlled message thing. We just let things happen out there. And then we try and manage our relationship with all the individual people, some more important, some more influential than others. And that has become what relationship management is today. It is moving away, just like Diane said this morning, it is moving away from this old-fashioned ideas of symbolic management, where we create things that seem to tell the stories that we want to do. We have to make things available because we can't, as an organization, we have to make our information available, but we have to do that in a way that we hope people will use constructively. People have to, every organization, and Coca-Cola most certainly has to be one of them, has to appreciate that the vector of communication has changed from organization to public. It's now people to people. It was one of the key arguments of the book I wrote a couple of years ago with David Phillips, Online Public Relations, 2nd edition. We talked about the vector of communication. What I meant was that in this talk, I am talking to you. I'm getting a very, very small amount of feedback back. And that's what most organizations have tried to do. They have tried to tell their stakeholders, their audiences, their publics, call them what you may, They've tried to tell them one thing, and they've tried to say, oh yes, and we listen too. And we've tried to call that two-way communication. And the vector of communication has been from organisation to those who are listening. That's partly to do with the history of mass communications. Public relations in its media relations format grows out of the ability of us to reach lots and lots of people by placing our stories. Do you remember those old-fashioned things called stories that you wrote down on those things called news releases? And you gave them to somebody. And they had the means of distribution, and they gave them to lots of people. It was a hell of a long time ago. Those 20-year-olds that we were hearing about this morning, and Pascal was talking about, are going to think these old ideas of mass communication, giving things through press releases, how terribly old-fashioned and quaint. The new vector of communication has switched through 90 degrees. What matters now is the conversations between people that surround an organisation. All the little bits of information and opinion that are passed around. Because people can. Because people can talk to each other and interact with each other outside time, outside geography, in ways they never could before. More interestingly, the rest of us can eavesdrop on those conversations. They may be friends of friends that we sort of see on Facebook. They may be people who've created bits of content that are aggregated on Google. But our little whispered asides and our small conversations that used to be the stuff of a physical conversation are now searchable. We're getting to the point where all the things that we do are there for everybody to see. It leads us to important theoretical and practical challenges that we try to address in the book. But then again, I've got I was looking at the books outside, and I'm very impressed by the way that the Creation Association has managed to make so many useful textbooks available. Listening with great interest to Diane and Anna's launch of their book. I haven't got a copy of Online Public Relations with me, and partly because I don't think we should have written it. Well, I do think we should have written it, but I don't think it's got very much meaning anymore. I think after 2 years, my book, David and I's books, become redundant. There isn't such a thing as online public relations. Our theoretical, yes, the tactics need to be understood, and we can work very hard on those. But I think that the theoretical insights that we had need to be absorbed and incorporated into public relations theory. And it's more than absorption. Our very understanding of what it is to practice public relations has moved forward. We've got to think in these terms of these new three-dimensional, ultra-fast, distance no object, completely transparent or increasingly transparent, porous relationships that are all about, as I say, visibility, about being able to be found and making sure that when people look, they find the things that we want to do.